All right, welcome into the Warchant.com report. I'm Jeff Cameron. There you see the two gentlemen on your screen. That's Ira, that's Corey, and we can't wait to talk about what just happened against Jacksonville State in a game this weekend against Wake Forest, which, by the way, 3:30 on ABC. No, that's ESPN. You can get it right, Jeff. Either way, are you going to watch? Do you dare watch? Can we hang in there and watch this game? I don't know. Let's start with you guys. We have to do the post-mortem. I'm supposed to do an overview of what just occurred, but first, as you see, hit the like button always. Ride and die with us, guys, no matter what happens on Saturday, no matter what happened just last Saturday. Corey, you want to start? Maybe you want to start, Ira. Either one, go ahead. Let's talk about what just happened.
Go ahead, Ira. You do it. You go.
It didn't just happen. It happened a few days ago. But yeah, Florida State suffered perhaps the worst loss in school history, losing 20-17 on a last-second 59-yard play to Jacksonville State, an FCS school that had lost 1 week earlier. Had got blown out by UAB 1 week earlier in a game that they got shut out. So not high times right now for Florida State football. But in the biggest problem, as you mentioned, is this week they got to go to play at Wake Forest, which, you know, in years past, the Wake Forest we all grew up with, that would be an opportunity to get right. You'd feel good about going in there winning by 30 or 40 points. The problem is this is a decent Wake Forest team. This is a Wake Forest team that was picked to finish higher than you in the first place in the conference. It beat you the last time you went up there. And it's a team that really has played well the last couple of years under Dave Clawson. So it's going to be a big test. Florida State's an underdog in this game. And even if they rebound from that last game, and I know we're going to break down this game and kind of look at it from all the different angles, even if they rebound and play well, there's no guarantee they're going to win this game.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice if they rebounded and played well? No matter, you know what I mean? Like there is a avenue we can all see where this season drives down into a pit of despair. And it would start this Saturday. If they go up there and do not compete and do not play well, and it looks a lot like what some of the games last year looked like, it's like a record scratch on a you know, in one of those movie scenes where somebody walks into the wrong bar. That's what Saturday night was, frankly, the Jacksonville State loss. That was the record scratch. This would be taking the record player and smashing it over your head with it. I don't know. We can argue. I guess there's semantics. It's the worst loss in program history, modern day, post Bobby Bowden being hired. It is easily the worst loss in Florida State history. And you wonder what the mindset will be, because I know fans have jumped off the bandwagon. Have the players, we haven't really seen, at least Ira, it doesn't sound like you've seen a lot of that at practice, but we'll find out on Saturday, man, especially if they get down 10-0 or 14-0 early. That was a game that almost completely defied belief and really kind of altered the perception of this coaching staff. And they have to build trust back up by actually having a team ready to play and winning games.
Guys, how do we think it happened? All signs pointed. All three of us said this. Anybody who was out at practice covering this team thought this. I heard players talk about this. We didn't see a team that was disjointed. We didn't see the most talented team in the world, but we saw a team that was together in the offseason, working harder, playing smarter, building towards a performance against Notre Dame that I think a lot of people figured Florida State could build on. It was visual evidence of all that hard work. It was visual evidence of buy-in. How do you think we arrived at that scene late Saturday night with the debacle that we saw against Jacksonville State? Because it's not just the final play, which was very emblematic, really, of the entire game, which is that Florida State played poorly and in some cases put themselves in jeopardy of something like this happening, and then finally it came to fruition.
Well, in my opinion, I mean, I think the encouraging thing is this wasn't exactly like some of the losses the last few years, especially the losses last year or even the year before, where the players didn't compete. And that was what was so exciting about the Notre Dame game, is that the players did compete. Even when they got down, they competed, they fought back, they took the game to overtime. They didn't get the win, but they competed. This past game, I thought they played hard again. I thought you saw guys competing. I feel like this game was on the coaches. And from that standpoint, that at least you feel like these coaches can coach better than they did that game. They can prepare a better game plan. They can have the players more mentally focused. But that last game, to me, wasn't a situation where, oh, these are a bunch of loser players that I think you're starting to see some on social media and on our message board saying, oh, they still got that loser blood in them. Man, that game wasn't on the players. Now, that last play was, to a degree. There was a bad play call, and you had a couple of players not make a play. But for the most part, I thought guys played hard. I don't think that's the problem with this team right now. And so to me, that's encouraging because I think the players will compete if put in the right position. Now it's up to the coaches to do that.
Well, it's encouraging in the sense that it wasn't the players' fault. We'll see how the players react, though. We have no way to know or understand or predict how this group of players will react to that loss. But, man, the coaches let them down. I don't know how else to say it. The offense was abysmal. The reason you lost that game is because your offense put up 3 points in the second half against an FCS team, and that was a 53-yard field goal. It was abysmal. There was hubris involved. There was, we're going to do all this fancy stuff to make Wake Forest prepare for us. We're going to play. If Jordan Travis is your backup quarterback, which clearly he is now, why is he in the game at all in the first half of a 0-0 game? It's hubris. That's the only way there is. They obviously don't have a feel for what this team is right now to think they can do that. And at the end of the day, the offense was dreadful. I mean, he put up 330 yards in 2 touchdowns. Both of those drives were 50-something yards. No explosive plays. You played your third best tailback for a majority of the fourth quarter. Everything, in my opinion, on that loss was on the coaches. Now, that does not mean they're a bad coaching staff. It does not mean Mike Norvell's a bad coach. He had an awful, awful night, and he needs to put his players in a better position to succeed. And, yeah, Jarvis Brownlee didn't make that tackle. It was a ridiculous play on his part. It was ridiculous he was in that position. Not only did they called that defense when they did, but that the game was close. You should have 35 on that team, man. The game should have been over, and your backup quarterback should have been playing. So that, to me, is all on the coaches.
And well, just let me add one thing. And when I say that the players weren't to blame, the players did. There were certain guys definitely that played poorly. They committed a ton of penalties. They had a lack of focus. But at the end of the day, that, to me, goes back to the coaching staff. If guys just aren't giving effort, and I know there wasn't a lot of effort on that last play from a couple guys on the defense, but for the most part, the effort was there. That is the bottom line, or excuse me, that's the minimum standard, as Mike Norvell said this week. You want to see that, and I did think you saw that. You just didn't see focus, but to me, that goes back on the coaching staff as well.
Corey alluded to it a moment ago. We'll talk about the quarterbacks next as we preview the actual Wake Forest game. We'll put this Jacksonville State game in the rear view. Obviously, it's a devastating loss. It's not one anybody else had on the ledger. We thought Florida State at worst would be 1-1 right now. Now they find themselves in a desperate situation heading to Wake, but it is a game they can win. We'll talk about the Wake Forest Demon Deacons and what they represent as a challenge for Florida State next on the Warchant.com report.
Live and living color and totally free. Subscribe to Warchant TV on YouTube, the digital home of Warchant.com. From the practice field to pregame and the phone calls afterwards, Warchant's YouTube channel is home to live programming like Seminole Headlines, Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, as well as Trench Talk, a live Q&A with Noles offensive lineman Devontae Love-Taylor. Just search Warchant on YouTube and click or tap the subscribe button. That's it. It's totally free. Warchant TV on YouTube. Just another reason we're the ultimate Seminole sports source.
As mentioned before, here on the Warchant.com report, Florida State, Wake Forest, 3:30 ESPN on the road. Wake Forest is 2-0 on the season. Hard to gauge much of what they've done. Obviously, 2 easy wins against Norfolk and Old Dominion. They are an experienced team. They get almost everybody back on offense. They are a team that, number 28 in total offense last season, averaged 444 yards and 36 points per game. They brought most people back. Most people know Sam Hartman at this point. Let's talk for a second about what they represent. We'll kind of circle back to what Florida State's doing at quarterback as well. Corey, what do they do well?
Well, they do everything pretty well on offense, right? Like they run that unique kind of, I'm going to hold the ball in the belly for 5 seconds. I'm going to see what you do, and then I'm either going to pull it out and pop a pass, or the running back's going to run. Hartman, I don't think is much of a runner. But he's number one. He's only a sophomore, which seems preposterous. I feel like he's been around forever. But he's a redshirt sophomore. But he's already 8th in career passing at Wake Forest. He's a mature veteran quarterback, man. And if you give him holes, if you give him windows to throw the ball, he's going to find his receivers. He's a guy that's not going to make a ton of mistakes, and he's a guy that will pick you apart if you're pick-apartable. And that's what was so a little bit worrisome about those last 2 drives is that it wasn't just that last play. The drive before, Florida State's DBs didn't compete real well. They gave up 2 touchdown passes. 1 was called back. And then they also, there were a couple pass interference penalties. That's the stuff, man. You hope you can limit that a little bit and just don't give him wide open receivers to throw to, because he will find them and hit them.
Ira, shift to the run game for a second. I think most people, when they think about Wake Forest, think about how aggravating it is to play them, how frustrating it can be. Traditionally, like Corey said, they do some things that are very unique to the college football world. They do a little less of that. They don't hold it as long as they used to, at least in the 2 games that I've seen them, and they changed some a little bit last year. But talk about the run game.
Yeah, but that's still a big part of it. Just the option and the mesh point and really trying to get you to, they throw a lot of eye candy, do different things to try to get you distracted and to chase where you think the play is going to be instead of just doing your job and then using your aggressiveness against you. And that's why really a lot of teams like Florida State, Miami, teams that are traditionally very aggressive up front defensively sometimes struggle against Wake Forest because they will use your aggression against you because they know they can't just man up and block you. So, talking to FSU's players this week, Fabian Lovett, we spoke to him earlier this week, and he said, really, it's all about beating your man and then going to make the play. Don't just try to get around him. Just don't think you know where the play is going to be and chase that because they'll go the other way and use some misdirection. I think, from what I've seen the first couple of games from Florida State's defensive front, I feel like they're going to handle that pretty well. They've been disciplined so far. I thought in the Notre Dame game, you saw a really good example of it where they did not let Notre Dame outflank them. They did a really good job of staying home on misdirection things and counters and played all of that much better. I think you'll see that defensive front play well. And if they do, that's the key to the game. But as Corey said, there's going to be some breakdowns. There's going to be some guys running free because of the things they do, the pressure they put on you. So the key is to minimize those and to not give up touchdowns on those plays. It may be one thing for a corner to bite, but you can't have the safeties bite too. You can't give up easy touchdowns or multiple easy touchdowns. So I think it's a game where Florida State's defense can play really well for long stretches. They just can't give up those huge plays.
Corey, I want to shift to you and talk about the Wake defense for a second, because at the end of the last segment, we talked about what Florida State chose to do at quarterback, and that's to go with McKenzie Milton this week as the starter. It's an interesting choice. By the way, that Wake defense at the end of last year was simply terrible, gave up a ton of points. They haven't been great for the last couple of years, frankly, but we don't know really what they are through their first 2 games given their opponents. What do you expect to see from Florida State's offense against this Wake defense, which I think can be had?
I don't know, man. I can't answer that question. I don't know. I feel like if McKenzie Milton's your quarterback, you're going to try to get the passing game going a little bit. One way or another, it's got to be better than it was Saturday night when you averaged less than 4 yards per pass play. So with that said, if I'm Wake Forest, don't you just defend them just like Jacksonville State defended them? You play some guys back. You assume that Florida State will not drive 80 yards in 12 plays because they're not built that way. They're gonna have a penalty. They're gonna have a missed assignment. There's gonna be a bad snap, a tackle for loss, a hold, and it's gonna be 2nd and 22, and then they're gonna be punting in 2 downs. So I feel Wake Forest will play like that. I don't know that. It's not like the receivers have shown any ability to beat man to man. So I guess you could just go all out to stop the run. I just think with Milton back there, if Travis was back there, they'd play completely different, I think, than with Milton being back there. I think with Milton back there, they play more soft coverage, not wanting to give up a big play, not thinking that they're going to give up a big play and that Florida State's going to drive 80 yards to score.
Do we think at the end of the day, fellas, both of you can answer this before we start to do the actual predictions and keys to the game and all that good stuff? Do we think at the end of the day, this is a little bit more about Florida State to some extent? Now, they may not be a talented team, but if they execute and they're also playing well within themselves, they have an opportunity to win this game. Is this about avoiding penalties?
I think that's part of it. Obviously, Florida State has to play a cleaner football game to have a chance. And this is also their first game on the road. So that's a bigger challenge. They didn't play clean at home offensively. Certainly not in the second game, and that was at home against an FCS team. So to expect them to go play a clean game is probably asking a lot. And again, but the other problem is it's not like they've got a huge talent advantage over Wake Forest. Is the point you made, Jeff? Florida State's not a 1990s or even 2000s talented football team. So they have to play cleaner, but it's going to be a challenge doing it on the road. So on the one hand, I say it's about Florida State. But it's also they're going to have to win some one-on-one matchups. That was one of the things that Mike Norvell really hammered home this week is not just offensively, but defensively. The cornerbacks, the safeties, they have to make one-on-one plays, not just contest the catch, but actually make the play, either pick it off or break it up. And those are things you got to see on both sides of the ball for them to win this game.
Guys, make sure you are liking and subscribing. And if you want to be a subscriber to Warchant.com. Obviously, now would be a good time to do it. This is going to be a hell of a ride. You guys are going to want to watch this thing play out. I think the boys know. You're going to want to be a part of this. We come back, we'll talk about what this game means to the program, how important it is for the remainder of the season, and give you the breakdown of what we think are the keys on the Warchant.com report. Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Hit that little bell, like and subscribe. Make sure you get all these and you find out when we got more content coming. Pound that like button. There you go. Simple enough. There's Ira and Corey. I'm Jeff, and you're you, and we're thinking to ourselves, how important is this game to the future of the program, certainly to the future of this season? What do we see? Who wants to start? Ira, you started last time I asked an open-ended question like that. Corey, go ahead. How big is this game on Saturday?
Enormous. It really is enormous. Like, not for this season. I mean, I guess, yeah, for this season, that's fine. This season is what it is. You're hoping to get to 6 wins, maybe 7 if you get to a bowl. And that's like the top of the line hope. But it just would say so much, I think, about this coaching staff and this coach. If they even rally up like Willie's team did after Louisiana Monroe and play well at Virginia for 3 quarters and have a lead over a ranked team. Like, at least that was something that gave you a little bit of hope. It was short-lived, clearly, but that team showed some fight. This guy preaches fight. He preaches accountability. He preaches hard work and bouncing back. I would love to see that this week, win or lose. That's why, to me, it's important. If you go out there and play hard and just lose because you're not great, you're not very good, it's a coin flip, you lose the coin flip, okay, it's a bummer. You need to start winning games, but at least play well or play hard and score some points. Score some touch the end zone, get in the end zone. But yes, it's a very important game because if it looks bad and goes bad, you have a feeling it could really go off the rails.
Yeah, Ira, I'm going to let you comment. Corey, I just had to note, and the reason I was laughing was the score some points sounded so desperate, so angry, and so perfectly summarizes where the fan base is at right about now, I think. I hear you loud and clear. Ira, we do know this could go off the rails, and we've watched too many seasons go right off the rails too early in the year, but we didn't expect to see it this year. I don't know if it will or it won't, but we do know if they go 0-3, there's a whole lot of apathy, a whole lot of angry, and a whole lot of what in the world are we going to do now amongst this fan base, amongst these players, and maybe even amongst these coaches.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Wake is not who you want to have in this situation, especially on the road. I mean, Wake, people aren't, some people are going to roll their eyes about this, but Florida, Wake hasn't lost a home game other than Clemson since 2019. I mean, I think they've won their last eight home games other than Clemson. So they're a formidable opponent. Virginia lost there last year. Virginia Tech lost there last year. Florida State lost there 2 years ago. It's not like Florida State's going to just kind of easily cruise into this game. I think you'd much rather have a home game against Syracuse or Louisville or somebody like that. So on the one hand, I say, yeah, this is a huge game for Florida State, but it's hard to say it's like a must win because there's a decent to pretty good chance they're not going to win it. So that, to me, that doesn't necessarily say bad things about this program or where it's at right now compared to last week or compared to the week before. I do think it would be really important for them to win it. If they could win it, it would do a lot. It would definitely strengthen, just the belief. Not just it wouldn't strengthen the belief that fan base is not coming back until they beat several. They have several good games in a row in a short period of time, not just one. But from the player standpoint, it would give them some validation that this coaching staff is putting them in the right positions. They're doing the right things. There's hope for the future, and also for Mackenzie Milton. This is a guy that had won 23 straight games. He lost, he gets the loss for the Jacksonville State game. It wasn't all on him, but he gets the loss. If he, again, doesn't play very well, doesn't throw the ball down the field, doesn't make a lot of big plays, then you start having people wondering, are they playing the right quarterback? So from those standpoints, it's a big game. I just think it's a lot to ask because this is a game we didn't necessarily expect them to win, even if they had won last week.
To that end, if they do win the game, who's the MVP? Are we looking on that offense? Are we looking at Mackenzie Milton? Or do we think it's the defensive line that corrals Wake Forest's offense and at the end of the day carries the day?
I would say Toafili. Get him as many at-bats as you can and just see what happens. No, I think if you win the game, it's going to be / offensive line doing some semblance of run blocking, which they've been pretty good at this year, and then your two guys, Corbin and Ward. I mean, if those guys can combine like they did last week for 150, 160 yards, like they did the week before, actually. I think you have a pretty good chance if you can run the ball on the road. That should travel. I don't believe in the passing offense. Until they prove me wrong, I don't believe they're going to make a ton of plays in the passing game. I don't believe that's where their bread will be buttered. They need to be a predominantly run team, getting a lot of 3rd and 3s, and then, wildcat it to death.
No.
Wildcat them to death.
No.
Just run wildcat until they put their hands up. They don't want to do it anymore.
At the end of the day, I think it'll be the defensive line that wins the game. They'll turn this into a field position game. Florida State won't have to do all that much if they win. Offensively, score somewhere in the low to mid-20s and maybe hold on to win 24-21, something like that. I'll go with the defensive line. Really quickly, we've got to get to our picks. I'm not so sure I'm excited about these picks, but we got to do them. So here we go. Virginia Tech at West Virginia. West Virginia favored -3.
I'm going to say West Virginia. It's just I'm riding the ACC loses these kind of games train.
Anti-ACC.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm believing a little bit in Fuente and Virginia Tech. I'm going to take the Hokies.
I, too, will take Virginia Tech. Michigan State at Miami. Miami's given 6.5. They're off to a rocky start, barely getting by against Appalachian State.
I like Michigan State in that one. Michigan State can run the ball, right, Jeff? Typically. I mean, they're a Big Ten team. I don't know what else they can do. So I would feel like they're going to be pretty physical. The Miami defense has not been good. I like Michigan State to at least keep it within a touchdown.
Yeah, I like Michigan State too. I'm going to fade Miami as long as I can, which could be all season. So I'm going
to fade them as well. Virginia, North Carolina. North Carolina favored by 8.5. Virginia's played well so far to start the season.
And I like that quarterback. Quarterback has a little something to him. Dare I say they have the better quarterback in that game? Probably not. Just joking. I'm just still mad that Howell left because Walt Bell wasn't here. That's crazy. What are you doing, Sam Howell? Look what you could be in the charge of. I'll say I think North Carolina covers that.
Yeah, I'll take North Carolina as well.
Give me the Hoos, baby. I'm going to ride the hot hand with Virginia getting the 8.5. Auburn on the road at Penn State. Kudos to both these teams for scheduling this game. It's not some silly neutral site game, but rather a home and home. Pretty cool to get that. I like Penn State. I don't trust Bo Nix on the road ever. Really, I don't trust Bo Nix just standing around. I'll take Penn State and give the 6.
So they're favored by 6, Penn State?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bigger number than I was hoping. I'll still
it's
go
a
with Penn
whiteout,
State.
buddy.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well, then they don't lose those.
Yeah.
I'm going Penn State. I'll go Penn State on that one as well.
3 for Penn State.
Finally, Alabama at Florida. Florida is a 15-point underdog. That's a massive number for a team hosting the game in the swamp, but we know it's Alabama. So I'm going to go with Alabama. I'll take the over is actually the play for me. Although I do think that, unfortunately, Florida woke up and realized Anthony Richardson's the guy. It's not Emory Jones, but he pulled his hamstring. So how much is he going to play? If he's hurt and he can't play a lot and run around and be dynamic, then Alabama will blow him out. If he plays and he can run around and do the things that he can at 6'4", 250 pounds, it could be interesting.
Man, I have a hard time ever betting against Alabama with any of these spreads. I do think Florida will keep that close. I do think that'll be a game in the fourth quarter because I have not been Alabama's played one solid half so far of football. And their coach is not happy with him. And I know he's not never really happy, but he's been not pleased with what he's seen. But that quarterback situation of Florida worries me. I'm going to pick Alabama. I'll say Alabama, but I do it begrudgingly.
If Anthony Richardson was playing, I would feel a little bit better about Florida. I certainly wouldn't take Alabama laying 15 on the road, but I don't think he is going to play. I think his hamstring's significant, and so I'm going to take Alabama. I think Florida will fall apart as that game goes. I just don't believe in Emory Jones.
I don't believe in Emory Jones either. So it really does come down. All of our picks kind of go out the window if Anthony Richardson's healthy enough to play. Then it's kind of an interesting game. All right, we get to the Florida State game. Florida State at Wake. Wake is favored by 5.5. Give me the Noles. I like the Noles plus the points. I like the Noles to win the game outright.
I'm with you. I don't know about outright, but I definitely think it should be a close game. It will be a close game, and we'll see how the coaching staff handles late game strategy this week.
Jeff almost talked me into it with the talk about the defensive line because I do think that that's going to be the key to the game. And if they play really well, I think there's a chance they could even maybe set up some defensive scores or short fields. But I made my pick before this, and I'm going to stick with it. Wake 24, Florida State 17. I have a hard time seeing an offense that can't execute at home doing that much better on the road. So I'm going to go 24-17.
Ira's a hater, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's Look at it. Out of nowhere, he picks an opposing team. Like
Serving up
that.
the hater.
We're trying to make people feel good about this program, and there
Yeah.
goes Ira.
That's all you've done.
evidence.
That's all you've done for the last week, Corey.
That's all I do. I try to pick people's spirits up. I'm not mad. It's just a game. It's football. It's sports.
I want to personally thank Ira, Corey, and Aslan for putting up with me. You guys don't know the behind the scenes of this particular broadcast, but I wasn't the strongest of the group today, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Warchant TV, warchant.com, and all things Warchant. Damn it. Go Noles, and we'll talk to you next time.